In the previous lesson about Redshift, we started to experiment with different types of lighting techniques and different types of lights with different shapes using the area light, like you can see in this render. And we use the spherical, the disc, the rectangular, and then we also apply some IES effects for spotlights. Use the mesh light to apply an emissive effect to any 3D object. So we experiment with a lot of these we can call artificial lights or lighting devices. In this lesson, we will focus more on the natural light. Now you can use some of these lights to simulate the natural light as well as artificial light. But we're gonna go into more specific themes, and we're gonna see exterior lighting as well as interior. So I'm gonna click and drag the lights menu in the interface so we can have a look to all the lights right away. We're also gonna see the partial light and the physical sun. Now for starter here, I wanna get a 3D person that from this website. We already used this website in the previous video to get the character. So we're gonna use this free download and get another character here, Cinema 4D. So you can click and download it. And in this case, I want to use this, not Dennis. We used this in the previous video. Here, I want to use the May character. And remember, you need to extract to use this. So I'm going to extract this, and inside we'll find different formats for different render engine like Corona and V-Ray, Octane, and Native. We're gonna go for Native. If you're interested in the other render engines, you'll find them in the channel. So if I double click, I can open up directly the character. So I can copy and paste this, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V in another scene. I can merge this directly in an open scene, or I can just use this one here. If I use this one here, you see Redshift is not visible. So let's recap this passage right away. You need to activate. So if you want to use the scene directly, you can activate Redshift in another scene that you open up, like from another Cinema 4D file. So you either start with a scene that already has Redshift activated, or you need to activate it. That's the bottom line. So we're gonna use this scene. We're gonna add a dome light right away. We know the dome light is an environment, and in my opinion, this is kind of the basic light you need to use. So I always start with the dome light usually. So otherwise you have the default, which is not really nice. I'm gonna add a plane so we can see also the shadows, because many times the environment is not enough to have a nice shadows. So you can see here the character is not projecting any shadow on the floor because the environment is such as generic and flat uniform light. It doesn't create any specific shadow, doesn't enhance details. So it's kind of flat and natural in a way, like a sky dome. So I'm gonna go here in the asset browser, and I'm gonna look for some HDRI. So we already saw how we can apply an HDRI. We can get it directly here from the asset browser. We can click and drag, and we can drag it and position it. Well, the best thing is to drag it and drop it directly in the dome light in this case. So in the spot where it says Texas. So if we drop it there, you will see there the HDRI. Now the HDRI is an environment that is not only working with the background, as a fake scene around our subject, but it's also emitting light. You can see we have now an exterior kind of sunset or dusk or dawn situation, and it's an outdoor. So by changing the environment, by changing the HDRI or environment image that we're using, we are quickly changing everything. So with a single click, we can define a different type of lighting. So it could be outdoor, it could be indoor, it could be a studio, it could be night, it could be day, it could be sunset, and so on. So with a single click, we can change everything. That's the beauty of what is called IBL, or image-based lighting. We don't need to set up like a complex system of lights. Everything is just inside the image itself. So it works for as a background, it works, and that's an indoor, by the way, that I just dropped in the same slot. So we can see the light has changed. And so we can use this for a background. We can use it for lighting the scene real quick, and we can use it also for reflections. So like metallic materials or really glossy materials, they will look really nice right away with a HDRI, because they will look more realistic, and they will have a scene to reflect. Otherwise, they have just the black or a white or a black or a empty scene around, and that's not really good. So HDRI and image-based lighting can be the base of your work, and you can see it's already getting an excellent result with this pretty realistic model. We have a really realistic effect right away. Now you make sure also that the background matches the size and the orientation of your subject. So the background, the foreground needs to be some way matching and sync as to have a good photo montage. Now we can add also other lights, of course. We can change also the type of HDRI, but usually the most popular will be the spherical HDRI or image-based lighting. So you can try it with the others if you have some problems. You can also flip it. You can flip the direction, and you can do some color correction. You can do some adjustments. You can also rotate the HDRI to make it match better. So I'm just gonna start here with some color correction, which you can do in Photoshop or GIMP or Canva or another graphic design application. But many times you can do this directly in your 3D software, just by changing here the luminosity, the intensity, the exposure. You can do a lot of adjustments. You can make the scene and the lighting brighter or darker. And if you want, you can turn the environment off from the background. So you are keeping the lighting from the HDRI, but you don't want to use that as a background. So you just keep the HDRI as lighting and as reflections. And let's move on here. So here, if I select the dome light that I've called IBL, you can change from here the various parameters. So you can rotate it, you can position, and then you can scale. But the most important one is the rotation. So you can rotate the sphere around to better match again your subject with the background. So here I'm just rotating the HDRI around, and you can see it also changes. It also affects the lights or the lighting. So image-based lighting, or IBL, that's a really important and really fast and easy technique to use in order to improve your rendering right away, especially if you have a reflective object, reflective material. You can also search for environment texture on Google or on any other search engine to find other types. You can see they are like spherical, flat spheres images. Or you can search for HDR or HDRI, which means high dynamic range image, by the way, which means that it contains a lot of information about the light and the dark areas of the image. Now, there is a website that I usually use. It's called Polyhaven, that has a lot of assets like HDRIs and textures and models. So let's go for HDRIs. And here you can see the categories on the left. So you can see that you can create outdoor situation, you have indoor scenarios and environments. You also have studios. So we created our own studio in another lesson using the fake background and simulating the different studio lighting and studio lights, like the 3-point lighting. But sometimes you have the image itself. So when you drag and drop the image, again, you don't only have the background, but you also have those lights. So the lights that you see inside here, they will also use as a 3-point lighting system or 2-point lighting system in your scene. So I'm going to download this. You can choose the resolution. You can select a higher resolution